start until probably the Intelligence Reform and Terrorism Prevention Act of 2004, I believe, that established the position of a DNI. So why do we need a DNI? What does it do? And so you need to really look back like 80 years in American history to understand how this all precipitated. After World War II, right on the heels of World War II, Congress realized that after looking at the lessons learned of World War II, that there was some dysfunction in our national security. If you look at what Tulsi Gabbard, who is now being considered for the position of the Director of National Intelligence, which, by the way, she has my full vote of confidence. She's incredibly smart, also a veteran, and served her nation honorably. And then, of course, was a representative in Congress, right? So very, very, very achieved woman. And she's now being considered for the Director of National Intelligence. She said one of the very first things she's going to do as the DNI is look into these drone and UAP issues. Now, this is potentially a cabinet level position that she is now saying, for the record, these are going to be some of our priorities. You also have RFK Jr. that's had a long history in this topic and wants increased transparency. He
has a long history in this topic? I'm less aware of that.
Yeah.
What's the story there?
You'd have to ask him. I tend to...
we'll get him in here right after you.
Yeah. You also have people like Marco Rubio, who was on the Senate Select Committee for Intelligence, a sissy who's now Secretary of State, right? Who's going to be, and then you've got other individuals, Ratcliffe, who is now the Director of CIA, who's already said for the record that it looks like UAP, whatever they are real. We got to figure these things out. So you've got folks like Don Jr., who have been really, really championing the idea of transparency for the American people. Now, I want to say something here because people are going to say, "Oh, lose a Trump lover." Look, I love anybody who's willing to make a difference, a positive difference for this nation. I don't give a damn if you're Democrat or Republican or anything in between. What I care about is can you walk the walk when the time comes? Are you willing to do what's necessary? And I think we're seeing that. We're seeing a lot of changes here. So again, politics aside, because people will sit there and accuse me of all sorts of things. Either they think, "Oh, he's a
always will."
Yeah, dude, it's crazy. The bottom line is the proof is in the pudding. Can you make the changes that you said you're going to make? And we're beginning to see some of those changes. Now, are there other candidates on the Democratic side who've done the same? Yeah, of course. There were some great presidents as well.
Buffalo! Everyone's favorite slot game is live on DraftKings Casino. Hit the reels wherever and whenever to play for Wild Western wins. New players can play for $5 to get a spin on the mystery wheel for a shot at up to $2,000 in casino credits. Download the DraftKings app and sign up with code Julian, Julian. Join the stampede with Buffalo on DraftKings Casino now. The crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. In Connecticut, help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org. Please play responsibly, 21 plus, physically present in Connecticut, Michigan, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, West Virginia only. Void in Ontario. Eligibility restrictions apply. One per new customer. Play $5 and spin wheel to receive between $10 and $2,000 in non-withdrawable casino credits for select games that expire in 168 hours. Terms at casino.draftkings.com/promos. Ends February 16th, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. Eastern Time.
So, we've got to stop being so myopic and say, well, this administration or that administration. Look, all administrations have their advantages and all have their challenges, right? It's up to us as the American people to let the administration know what our priorities are. Yeah. And also Congress, right? If you don't like the person, there's an old saying that bad politicians are voted in by good people who don't vote, right? If you don't like it, then look in the mirror. I don't know what to tell you. Say, well, I didn't like it, so I didn't vote. Well, okay, there's the result, right? So I'm extremely optimistic about this new administration. They seem very proactive, very serious about transparency and getting to the bottom of this. Again, politics aside, if you follow the UAP topic, you'll see that I think we are postured like we have never been before for true transparency with the American people.
So with Tulsi, though, to go back to that one. So she's nominated. We're recording this on Sunday. This is going to come out on Friday, I believe. So I don't think she's confirmed yet.
She's not confirmed yet.
Right, but that would have apparently happened this week. But she, as DNI, for people out there who are less familiar with I guess, the organizational structure of government. Can you just explain the full scope of that? Obviously, she has full oversight of all intelligence agencies, but how much does that mean that they can read her into everything versus like keep things hidden within each agency?
Well, theory and reality are two different things.
Okay.
In theory, she should be a super user, be read onto everything. Both Title 15, Title 10 programs, so covert action, clandestine, and everything in between. The reality is that doesn't always occur. And so that's a problem. That's a dysfunction of the system. Now, if you want to, for people who don't understand what the DNI is, everybody knows who the director of the CIA, right? What they do. But the DNI position is kind of a new position, and it didn't start until probably the Intelligence Reform and Terrorism Prevention Act of 2004, I believe, that established the position of a DNI. So why do we need a DNI? What does it do? And so you need to really look back like 80 years in American history to understand how this all precipitated. After World War II, right on the heels of World War II, Congress realized that after looking at the lessons learned of World War II, that there was some dysfunction in our national security. So they created the National Security Act of 1947 that really established your Secretary of War, which now we call a Secretary of Defense, and basically says, okay, whereas before during World War II, maybe the person who's running the Navy operations in the Pacific isn't really coordinating with Army guy who's running the ground operations in the Philippines, right? So there's a disconnect there. We need kind of a daddy bear or a mommy bear to honcho and coordinate all these efforts. And over time, you had the services, Army and Navy, and you had Air Force. Later on, becoming from Army Air Corps to Air Force. And it started to work. We started realizing, okay, now we're becoming more functional as a government, military, and national security apparatus. So what happens 50 some years later? 9/11. And all of a sudden, we realized, crap, we had a huge intelligence failure. CIA and FBI both had pieces of information, and Department of Defense also had information, but they weren't sharing it. And as a result, 9/11 happened. And it was part of the 9/11 Commission reports that Congress had commissioned to say, what failed? How did this happen? So they realized we need to do the same thing with the intelligence community as we did with the Department of Defense and our national security apparatus. And we're going to create a daddy bear or a mommy bear, if you will, a head honcho for intelligence. And so we create this position called the Director of National Intelligence that is basically going to be the ringleader of all these 17 organizations in the intelligence community. People don't know. There's a lot of organizations out there that do intelligence. It's not just the military. And it's not just the CIA. It's not just the FBI. Right?
Who else?
Yeah, these
comes to
organizations,
mind?
NGA, National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, NRO, National Reconnaissance Office, right? NSA, National Security Agency, all these organizations that have their own intelligence mission. And so you need somebody that can coordinate all these on behalf of the nation and then report directly to the president. So this is the position that Tulsi Gabbard has gone through these hoops to be considered and Senate confirmed. It's not easy. I mean, you are responsible. If anything goes wrong, you're responsible, right? So you need the best and brightest. And so that's why you have this creation of the DNI. And in theory, she should be read onto everything. The reality is, operationally speaking, there's not enough time in the day. There's so many programs that are out there. It's like, look, I'm going to hire people, managers, like, for example, we call them National Intelligence Managers, NIMS. So you have different, if you will, bubbas and bubettes that work for the DNI, managing certain functional areas like NIM aviation or maritime domain awareness, and the National Intelligence Manager for, fill in the blank, China or whatever you want. And they, in theory, should be read onto everything as well within their portfolios and then bring that information up to the DNI. So then that he or she can then inform the president. And so that's really, I know it's a long-winded way to explain what is the DNI, but if you really want to answer, you really need to start 70 years ago to have that conversation with people and say, oh, now I see why we have a DNI.
What makes you like Tulsi for that position so much?
Oh my gosh. Well, look, I'm always, you've probably realized by now, I'm not a kiss and tell kind of guy. I don't like explaining to people, who I know, who I've talked to. So let's just look at it at face value. She's a veteran. She has been on both sides, both Democrat and Republican, right? And people criticize her for that. I think it's great. Look, when facts change, what happens? I change my mind, right? And that's okay. You're not stuck and wedded to a particular allegiance of a political party just because you feel obligated. Look, if we're human beings, and if situations changes, and a lot of people are also politically fluid. They're kind of this in the moderate middle, right? And maybe they're socially liberal but fiscally conservative and whatnot. So, I think it's dangerous to pigeonhole people. And Tulsi's been one of those people who've told people, look, I don't agree with certain politics and policies, and I think from a national security perspective, we need to do this. She's been there and done that. She's highly decorated military officer, lieutenant colonel, right? So she's no dummy. And by the way, in a system, an ecosystem, military system, that really has not been very good to females. That's fact. It's true. Look, and they can tell you, oh, we're all equal now and all. That's horse crap. It's not. Women are still not given the same, even though we like to think they are, they're not given the same advantages and opportunities that their male counterparts are.
In the military.
In the military, unfortunately. And there's a lot of sexual harassment. So if you want to survive the military, you really got to be a hardcore sister to do it. I mean, you got to have your shit straight. And then on top of that, she entered the world of politics and became a congresswoman, right? And then after that, still becomes an advocate trying to help her country. Long before she was ever considered for a position of DNI, she was still trying to make a difference. So I try to look at someone's heart as much as I can. People say, she's a Russian sympathizer. First of all, you don't know that. You're getting that crap from some sort of mainstream media outlet that's an echo chamber giving you the information that you want to hear. So before you jump to conclusions, I always recommend know the person you're talking about. Right?
Yeah.
And break bread with them. Look them in the eye. And then if you have that same opinion, great. But give them an opportunity. Don't just, I read an article that says someone is someone and they're doing this with Russia. Well, there's also a lot of misinformation out there. And ask me how I know, because I face it all the time. So, my recommendation to people is give somebody a break, give them the benefit of the doubt, listen to their words and their actions and see where that takes you. And if at the end of the day you still feel that way, then okay, but at least you've done your due diligence. And that's all I'm asking. So I think Tulsi has got tremendous potential. I've always been an advocate to see her go where she wants to go.
How long have you known her?
Well, you know what? That's a question you probably need to ask her. I don't even to say no, right? How long have I known of her, or how long have I?
I see what you're saying.
I don't want to.
You don't want to call someone a friend if you've talked with them a few times.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Because, my definition of friend may be a different definition than you have, right?
Yes.
Thank you for watching the video, guys. If you haven't already subscribed, please smash that subscribe button and check out this clip's full podcast episode by clicking here or in the description below.